Why was Minecraft version 1.9 so bad? Minecraft's Java Edition version 1.9, aka the Combat Update, despite being an objectively minor update, changed a lot of stuff and caused a lot of uproar. Things were particularly spicy amongst PvP and competitive Minecraft communities. Now, before I get into this, I do want to say I'm going to present the facts in a more neutral manner and try not to bash the update too much. I personally am not a fan of it, hence the title of the video, but it's important to report the facts alongside of the opinions. Let's start with the combat system upgrade. In case you somehow don't know, Minecraft pre-version 1.9 had an entirely different system of melee combat. It was, well, essentially spam clicking to do damage. There was no sweeping attack, no melee timer, no shield or second hand actually at all, and swords still reigned superior to the axe. Which to most people sounds and maybe kind of was boring compared to what we have today, and we'll get to those most people, but I want to start with why this old system was so popular for PvP players and servers. You see, despite the combat seeming easy and brain dead back then, it actually arguably had a bigger skill ceiling than it does today. It really wasn't just spam clicking and hoping your internet connection was better than the other person. There was strategy on when to rush forward, strafing was huge, and you better hope your clicks were accurate, because one misclick meant certain death. And so yeah, it was pretty easy as a casual player to get into PvP a little bit and have a good time, but the skill gap was immense. Now, I want to make sure everyone knows I am famously bad at this game that I love so very much. I am even more abysmal at PvP. I get excited over the smallest of victories.
Just hit them.
Oh, let's go! Let's go! That being said, I can't really speak for the competitive community as a whole, but what I can do is funnel what I've heard and read over the years about these changes. Anyway, when servers were forced to upgrade to 1.9 for mods, plugins, and what have you, this was a huge step backward in their communities, and there were quite a few PvP servers that disappeared forever. The bigger ones like Hypixel integrated and backloaded the old combat system into all of their mini-games and PvP events. And that, of course, is still the case to this day. Nowadays, there are two main types of PvP servers. There are those that run on the classic 1.8, or modern-day servers that have implemented the old combat system. Now, is this a problem though? I mean, it's a headache for modders and server developers, but it still does work. And despite killing servers for a little while, 1.8 PvP has never been more popular than it is today. I think the only people who have a problem at this point are Mojang due to this slap in the face about their underwhelming update. One cool PvP thing it did do though was make bows extremely popular, which I think is cool because bows in PvP are super fun and really hard to be good at. Now what about casual players? Most people don't have a strong opinion either way about 1.9, but I do think it affected casual players more than you may think. I believe Survival Minecraft's PvE got way easier in 1.9. Not that it wasn't already heading down the path of easiness, but man, I've been playing the older versions lately and they are hard. Like unbelievably hard. In Minecraft today, once you get a shield and maybe some iron armor, you are effectively unkillable besides accidental falls and surprise creepers. Sure, you used to be able to block with your sword, which was kind of weird, but that essentially did absolutely nothing for you in comparison to shields. One of the things that didn't really become quote-unquote easier with this update is taking on hordes of mobs. Despite being able to hit multiple targets with your sword, it actually takes way longer to take out the huge horde of Minecraft enemies than it used to. But yeah, it would be one thing if Mojang added new balanced weapons or something to make PvP more interesting, but nope, all we got added was the shield. It's called the Combat Update, and we didn't even get any new weapons. Something super interesting, 4 years ago, Jeb released a Combat Update 2.0 custom snapshot, with hints at adding it into the game in a future update. I won't go too into depth into the Reddit post for this video, as it could be its own topic entirely, and it's already covered all over YouTube, but I'll leave some links below so you can learn more about it if you want to. It fixed some of the complaints people had, like nerfing shields, making attacks overall much faster, and removing the sweeping attack for swords without having the sweeping edge enchantment. but this post was made in 2019. Here we are in 2023 without any official news of it being added to the game. And I think really, the overwhelming majority of people might see it as a form of doubling down on Mojang's bad feedback instead of having a simple solution, like the ability to toggle the combat styles on and off. Like seriously, dude, just one simple button in the menu would solve everything. I wouldn't even be making this video if that was the case. But what else released in version 1.9? It was called the Combat Update, but actually Combat was one of the least updated things in this version. This was the version that the Elytra, End Cities, and ships were released. It's a pretty major change to the end, so why not call it the End Update? Focusing it all on the combat changes kind of set up the channels for negative complaints and dwarfed the good things that came out of the update. Although I do really think the End still feels empty and unfinished. There's not much to do in the End Islands other than find the cities and look for the Elytra. I'm hopeful though that there will be another update-esque change to the End someday. And Minecraft today doesn't feel as much like this, but back then there were a large amount of complaints from casual players that the environment felt lackluster, and that many features and biomes and other things felt really empty and lifeless. And that's another huge problem with 1.9. It didn't focus on what people were really asking for. Like I said, we got some cool stuff in the end, but the End Islands make it almost feel more empty and lifeless than it used to. But hey, at least we got igloos. Did anyone else completely forget that these existed? I haven't found one in survival Minecraft in literal years. In all seriousness though, it really seems like Mojang just slapped together a bunch of random features, threw it all under the guise of the combat update, and called it a day. In fact, it is really one of the least cohesive updates ever released, especially when you compare it to things like Buzzy Bees, Caves and Cliffs, and the Wild update. People were so mad about the combat changes that the other features they did release were forgotten about due to the sour taste left in everyone's mouths. Oh yeah, and at least we got the most useless food item in the entire game added in 1.9 though. I mean, come on, really? Another interesting take on these changes is that 1.9 was the first update released after Mojang was bought by Microsoft, and right after Notch retired. And many people thought Microsoft took over and led the game astray almost immediately, especially those who followed Notch and his ideas extensively. Not saying that Notch isn't a fan of the combat update because there's no evidence for that, but there was a lot of WWND floating around back then. People really were thinking doomsday, and how 1.9 was the beginning of the end of the unified Minecraft community as the game got more commercialized. The combat changes caused such a divide that the gap between groups and subgroups of Minecraft communities grew larger and larger. Devil's advocate real quick and one look at the other side. There are good things that came out of this update. At least we finally got something in the end, and the Elytra continues to be one of, if not the best item in the game, and a huge goal to work toward in your survival worlds. And one of my favorite parts was skeletons got a major overhaul with their animations and AI. This was when the bow drawing animation was made and skeletons got smarter and shot faster, becoming much harder to deal with. It gave them a lot more life and added to the overall scariness of nighttime in the game, which I think is a good thing. When it comes down to it though, people just hate change, and that will never really change. It was the spammy sword literally since the game's inception, and people just couldn't cope with a major change to what they were used to. Again, I disagree with how Mojang went about their changes, but to their credit, any change to the combat at all would have caused backlash no matter what they did. And that really is how the birth of controversy happens all the time. And one final note, it's important to remember that the vast majority of Minecraft players either like or don't have a strong opinion on Minecraft version 1.9. And like most controversies in life, there is a vocal minority. And in Minecraft's case, the vocal minority is deafening. What do you think about version 1.9? Leave a comment below with your thoughts and any information I might have missed in the video. If you're still watching, thank you so much. Like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're brand new. I'll be making some more version reviews just like this very soon, as I love making this style of content and it's so fun to look back on these old updates. You won't want to miss any of that, and let me know if there's a version that you'd like me to cover in the future. I love you all so very much. Remember that you're so beautiful, and I'll see you in the next one.